Excuse those newspapers real quick, Aunt Ruby.
But,
Yeah, I couldn't see. Okay.
mm-hmm.
All right, start your music.
Good afternoon, and blessings. I thank God for this opportunity to be with you all again today.
Yes.
And of course, I thank my crew, my producers, Lula Salvador and Sheila Brown Bird,
Right.
my advisor, Juanita McClure,
Mm-hmm.
and I thank my promo crew, Halim and Elijah, and of course, I thank this young man here, King Norm.
That's right.
You know, he keeps me real and he keeps me on target, and I thank him for the space that he provides for me here.
Thank
Of
you.
course, I thank my co-host, Terry Benjamin,
you.
the
Yes,
Par Excellent.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of course, you all know me. I'm Ruby Williams Shivers, the Unapologetic Amateur, still looking for experts. You know, those experts in Africanism. You know, I say I was going to add that on because people sometimes get confused.
That's important.
Africanism.
Yes.
That simply means one who has studied thoroughly, number one, the existence of the African people. You know, history tells us that we are the original people,
We are.
and that's just real.
That's right.
Number two, we are going to have to know the history, the civilization that we are very much responsible for.
Yes. That's
They
right.
tell me that is true also.
It is.
Okay.
Very true. Very
Number three, we're going to the in-depth knowledge of our sojourn from Africa to here in the diaspora, the kidnapping of us as African people,
That's right.
brought over to these shores. And of course, number three, the person was going to have to know, have to understand that they're cause and effect to everything.
That's right.
So all the stuff that we went through, they're going to need to know the psychology around what happened, what it did to us, and what we must have done to us to get us back, to restore us to our original selves.
That's right. That's right.
So that's the Africanism I'm talking about.
That's right.
But again, I thank God for this opportunity to share knowledge with you. I'm forever motivated by the scripture, Hosea 4:6, which says, "My people will perish for lack of knowledge." But I'm also encouraged by the late Dr. Martin Luther King, who says, quote, "Truth crushed to the earth will rise again."
That's right.
And I believe that.
That's right.
You know, at least we are trying to do that here on this podcast.
That's right. That's right.
That's why I bring you facts. You know, undebatable fact.
That's right. That's right.
So we can work from there. It makes sense that we need to study us in depth, as every other major catastrophe
That's right.
has been studied.
That's right. It's important.
And I can't think of anything more catastrophic than what we went through and still going through. But we'll look at each other and criticize ourselves, who we are or who we are not. No, we've got to make a change. Now, let me ask you something. Did you all play the little game that Terry and I created last week?
That's right.
You know, the imaginary game.
Who's the kings and queens out there?
Exactly, because
we wanna hear from you.
think about it. As I said last week, we came over here not as slaves.
That's right.
We were not slaves. They brought the best. And they brought kings and queens, not to say best in terms of the humanity of it, but I mean the level of people that they brought over here. Basically kings and queens and artisan and scientists and all the people that could help them build this society that we see now.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so let's be real about that. Those are the people that they brought over here. So what the imaginary game that we want you to do with us, whenever you meet your brother or your sister, wherever,
That's right.
you imagine them being one of those kings,
That's right.
one
That's
of the
right.
queens,
That's right.
Queen Nzinga,
Yes.
Queen Nefertiti,
That's right.
King Askia,
Yes. 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 Yes.
you know, King Sune.
Yes.
Just imagine that in your mind. And that will reverse the negativism that we have been taught. As my good friend Dr. Calfani say, I used to say brainwashing, and he said, no, say brain dirtying. That's what has happened
Brain
to
dirty,
us.
that's for sure. Yeah.
So we got to cleanse our brain of who we are and whose we are. Yeah. We got a dynamite guest in here for you
Dynamite.
today. And Terry, I'm going to let you introduce me. But first, just let me just say, I taped from Jacksonville, Florida
Okay.
last
All
week.
right. Yeah. Yeah. You zoomed
And I'm
in.
going to talk about that next week. But I went back to a class reunion of sort. See, when I left Lake Butler, Florida, you know, just prior to integration, the upper classes of Union County, where I came from, Lake Butler, Florida, a little small hamlet, we were bused to a neighboring town called Alachua. But just prior to integration, they got smart. They built this elaborate
That's something.
$1 million
Yeah,
edifice
for them.
to keep for the quote colored kids
Oh,
to
since
keep us
when?
from integrating with them.
Okay.
So this event that happened last weekend was a gathering of all those students. You know, I was the first to graduate from that school, and 6 other kids.
I understand now.
They denied me the opportunity to graduate my class, Lachue class,
Oh, that's something. Wow.
which was 60 or 70
Yes. Yes.
students.
Yeah.
But because we went to this new school, I was one of 6. So it was interesting. It was historical. I'm trying to have the brother on who put all that together next week.
Oh, that'd be
So
nice.
watch
That'd
out.
be nice. Yeah. I'd love to
Yeah.
see that.
But in the
Watch out.
meantime, so we all came back this year, just to unveil a monument representing what has happened. But today, we're going to talk with our guest.
That's right. I guess.
Yes, Lord, the Reverend Grayson.
Ooh.
All right. I'm going to have Terry, my co-host, going to give the introduction, and we're going to go from there.
I'll be glad to. It's funny when you have to introduce people and act like you don't know them.
Right. You know him.
Yeah, I met him some time ago. We went went to a men's retreat together.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yeah, got to spend a whole weekend together and learning things and praying together and just being in a fellowship.
And then we
so-
drove home together.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
we
yeah,
talked the whole
right,
2
right,
hours
right,
coming
right.
in the car.
That's
Yeah.
right,
Oh,
right.
my
So
goodness,
I can't act like I don't know him, but I'm going
Okay.
but as I read the Bible, I'm gonna act like I have
Well,
heard this before.
see. You need to read it for my guests
No,
because
right,
they don't know
yeah,
him.
Yeah.
We were
Okay.
not so privileged.
Yes. I just want to say this is a man who needs no introduction, but for those who do not know,
Right.
I'll read his introduction.
Okay. That's right.
Reverend Leonard Grayson is the program director of Project Recover. Project Recover is a research-based program in the city of Elizabeth, Department of Health and Human Services, that confronts the opioid crisis in our community. From 2015 to 2021, Reverend Grayson served as the re-entry coordinator for the city of Elizabeth. His primary task was to assist public, private, and faith-based organizations in maximizing service delivery throughout collaborative planning and implementation of projects that serve the reentry community. With the team put in place in 2016, he created and implemented the City of Elizabeth Municipal Identification Program to offer many returning citizens and immigrants a second form of ID to better access opportunities for self-development. To date, the Municipal Identification Program has served over 12,000 residents. Today, it is now called the Office of Reentry, with a 5-member staff of $300,000 operating budget. In September 2015, Reverend Grayson was offered a position as adjunct professor with the Department of Administration, where he began to bring his experience and love for learning to his students. In 2017, He began to work with full-time professors in the Department of Public Administration to create and implement the Kean University Reentry Research Team. The purpose was to research information and begin collaborating with local public and private organizations to provide academic support in the reentry community. Reverend Grayson served as president of the Elizabeth chapter of the NAACP, also currently serves as board member of Teen Interrupters, which mentors young people in Prevention Links, which is a statewide recovery support organization. In 2019, Reverend Grayson was called to pastor True Word Community Christian Center, where he began to incorporate the values of the church with the collaborative efforts of the community to holistically serve our community. Reverend Grayson has a BA from Kean University, where he graduated summa cum laude and received the reward for valedictorian for the Concerned Black Personnel of Kean University. He graduated with his master's in public administration in 2014. In 2022, Reverend Grayson received Adjunct Instructor of the Year award by the College of Criminal Justice and Public Administration, Kean University. Reverend Grayson is a strong community activist that cares about the collective and personal progress of people in his community. He is my brother. He's a friend of myself and Ruby, and we are just glad to have you here with us. So welcome.
Well,
Welcome,
welcome. I'm looking
welcome.
for the guy.
Yeah, look at
Oh, you were reading that bio. I was looking around like, is there somebody else here?
It's you, brother. It's you.
It's quite a bio. It's quite a bio. I tell you,
Very impressive.
Yeah,
Very impressive.
done a
and he's
number
only
of things.
22 years old.
Hey, man.
And that's
See, that's why we friends right there.
Well, don't talk about age now because
that's a sore
really.
point between us.
All right.
You know,
He
we don't talk
asked,
about age,
he asked
and we
me
don't talk
my
about bank
age.
accounts.
Right.
Yes.
He asked me my age the other day on national television. I asked him what was in his bank account.
And I
he-
became shy.
Yeah, he became shy.
Oh,
And I just explained to him that, well, that really wasn't the reason I wouldn't tell my age for shyness. Then I went into why the age thing is over in this part of the Western world,
That's right. Yes.
Western Hemisphere.
Yes.
It becomes a negative in many cases. So it's not that people don't want to tell their age. They know sometime, like with our President Biden,
right.
they get ready to, right?
He's too old. You know. He's
Right.
too old.
Of all the things they claim he has done,
Yes.
but the age get in the way.
Isn't that something?
The age gets in the way. I said to everyone about our African connection. Now you go to Africa, you are revered.
That's right.
You know the age thing is
It's
a
a sign of
positive.
wisdom.
It is a sign of wisdom. Experience.
It
absolutely.
is, yeah. But, Pastor, let me ask you something. When you read all this, I said, well, my goodness, I can't do, how does he do all this? So, where do we start? You give us some information about what you're doing.
We'll follow
Okay.
you.
Well, first of all, I think you hit it on the nail when you were talking about understanding history, right? Winston Leonard Churchill, and I like saying his name because his middle name is my first name.
Look out.
Winston Leonard Churchill was the Prime Minister of Britain during World War II.
Right.
Yes.
He said that history will be kind to me because I'll be the one to write it,
I love that.
right? So,
Yes.
you know, as I began to get educated, I started to say to myself as I started to learn that I wanted to be the one telling my story. And I wanted to be the one making my story. And as you said earlier, you know, they have this thing called predestination where God preordains your purpose in life.
That's right.
But he doesn't tell you what that is. So you get to decide what that is. And so I call myself a king.
Okay.
That's what we call you.
Exactly. That's what I'm referring to, what you were saying, right? So a king does king stuff.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so I engage in the efforts to bring next generation leadership right to the forefront, to prepare, right? And you do that on many fronts, right? I do it through the work I do for the city, by dealing with issues to some degree that have been left behind, and it leaves people behind.
That's right.
And so if you're going to create next generation leadership, you can't just start with the best and brightest, right?
Right.
You've got because there's a lot of stars covered in dirt, right?
Brother, preach.
So you got to be able to go after them all,
Right.
And then the kings will rise,
That's right. That's right.
And so with the city where we do where I created the Office of Reentry, or this Project Recover, where we now examine the opioid epidemic and the fatalities, and we've had a whole lot of success with that over in the city of Elizabeth and Union County.
That's great.
And
That's
then
great,
it interacts with my work as a professor, because I intern a lot of young people at
Okay.
the city. I get them involved beyond the academic component, right? You just can't go by the book. You've got to have some experience
That's
to go
right.
with it.
That's right. That's right.
And so I bring a lot of students in, and they work with me in the various projects I do with the city. And then the pastoral role is everybody should have some level of a spiritual foundation.
Oh, no
Oh,
doubt
yeah.
about it. No doubt
Right.
about it.
Yeah, one of the
So-
3 things that I declare that's going to get us through will be our faith-based
That's right.
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Because we certainly are faith-based people. We believe that there's a God. We know that there's a God
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And of course, those who are very adept into our history,
That's right.
thoroughly
That's
knowledge
right.
of our history.
Right.
And like I say, the 4th is the psychology. Because until we understand that what we've gone through requires something just as serious
That's right.
as cancer,
Oh, yeah. No
just
doubt
as
about it.
serious as any
No
other
doubt about it.
major
Yeah.
event, then we're going to always think whatever we see about ourselves is our fault, or we could have done different, or we should have done different. But as I write in my book, the one that I said, Verbal Healing, it's not what we have done, it's what has been done to us. That not to make excuses, because in my book, the last book I wrote, I talk about the word excuse
Yeah.
and explanation.
That's right.
I say
Two different
excuses
things,
for
yeah.
2 different things.
Yeah.
You're born in white privilege, that's an excuse if
yeah.
you're not where you need to be.
Of course. Of course. Of course.
But born in from a slave perspective, you have an explanation. And since we haven't delved into the psychology of what happened to us and why it happened, we don't even know the explanation why some of us do what we do.
Right.
We just know it happened. We know it's not normal, or it doesn't seem to be normal. And I always tell people, if it didn't look like it came out of Africa,
Right.
then it must have come
Right.
from when we was over here
That's right,
and
right.
abused.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
right.
But I see. Tell me about this. I'm very interested in young people, and that's where we got to start.
That's right,
You're
we have
on the
to.
board member of Team Interpreters. What does that
Team
mean?
Interrupters.
Interrupters.
Team Interrupters is a youth
Interrupters.
mentoring program. And what we do is we work with young kids in prevention, right? I believe it was Frederick Douglass who said, it's easier to raise strong children than to repair broken men.
Yes.
Right.
Right, and so our job is to work with them and frame them in their early years,
That's right.
right? So Team Interrupters does that.
Okay.
We allow them. Now I'm a board member. I'm not involved in their daily activities, even though I'm involved in a lot of stuff because I was there on Saturday when we had the Buffalo Soldiers,
Oh, that's
which
great.
is a motorcycle club that reflects the history of the real Buffalo Soldiers that were Army regiment back in the day.
That's amazing.
And at that time, cowboys was a derogatory term, cowboys.
Yeah, yeah. of
But
course,
when they
of course.
saw the economic benefit,
Yes,
then
yes.
being a cowboy became special. And then the next thing you know, our white counterparts, right, made, cowboy into television history.
Right.
That's
Right? And so it's learning that stuff, learning your history that's going to help you understand where you are,
Exactly.
why you are there,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and how to move forward. Now, I will say this, regardless of our history,
Yeah.
pain is inevitable,
That's right.
but suffering is optional, right? So
that.
if
I
I
like
get a
that.
cut, that's pain.
Yeah.
If I don't take care of it, that becomes unnecessary suffering,
That's right. That's right.
right?
Yes.
So what we have to do is, okay, this is the pain.
Yes.
Okay, let's deal with it.
That's right.
Because we don't deal with it, we're going to suffer. And that's part of where we are right now. We're suffering
say it all the
because
time,
we're not
yeah.
having conversations like
Right.
this,
Yes. Yes.
right, that deal with one, the nature of the problem,
Right. Right.
and then two, the solution to the
Yes,
problem.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Right, but in both ends, it takes work. So with Team Interrupters, we're just trying to work with our young men and women, right? Predominantly African American, but people of color and anybody, right, is welcome if they're looking to strive, and find some purpose early, right?
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
always have to
Right.
be 40 before you find purpose,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's a solution. That's a solution, and that's the most important thing. Not only do we have to identify the problem, the expert I'm referring to will identify the problem, then done the research, then diagnose.
Yes, yes.
Now I use the example because God see he allows people who may not have. I call myself an unapologetic amateur. I mean that seriously. That's not for cuteness,
Right.
but that's
Yeah, yeah,
seriously.
yeah,
Right.
Because I know we need our experts who can fill in the blank to say what we need specifically is once we know the problem. I may not be able to deal with trying to fix it
Yes, yes.
because I'm not the expert.
Right.
I know the problem of the. I would say that God always provide me examples, but I don't know his example. So what happened
That's good,
when I
right?
wrote my last book, just prior to the pandemic, I knew what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say and whatever. But I know that there will not be everyone who would understand. Because first of all, we got the notion that if we're not doing something ourselves, it's something that we're not doing.
Right.
But I want to bring it to the point that no, we got to feel the same as anyone else who's gone through some major catastrophe.
That's
We
right.
got to have special people to delve into,
Right.
identify and delve into.
Experts.
Experts. So when the pandemic came out, I made this connection to how I was trying to refer to our situation, which I call the African slave virus 401.
Yeah.
But what happened is when that pandemic came, we knew right away that we shouldn't go to celebrity, we shouldn't go to sports figures, we shouldn't go to not even academician. We couldn't go to our president
we
because
want
guess what?
experts.
You know who our president was at the time,
Oh, yeah,
and he
yeah.
suggested injecting bleach. So even the most powerful man in the world couldn't give us answers. So what we did, we tried to go to the experts because we know the expert has studied that
right.
specifically.
Yeah, specifically.
So in terms of us, we got to know that we're going to have to get those folks who have studied what our conditions have been, and it's been dire, unlike any other in the face of the earth, on the earth. We have never read about anyone who had gone through what we've gone through. Because we went through stripping. They stripped us of all that we had.
That's right.
You know, our language, our religion, our culture, everything. So we got to put it in that context that we can't just arbitrarily think we know the answer. We got to get those folks who have studied it to tell us how we can come through what we, and I'm so appreciative of what you and other folks like you are doing to know that it's just more than just pointing the finger. We got to get there and try to figure out how to correct all this stuff that's been going on in our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I got another thing to bring up. This is just a kind of personal. Now, I don't know you right off, but I know your father.
Okay.
Your father, my son probably watching the program now, he married my son and my daughter.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, years ago. So I knew your father, the Reverend
Right.
Grayson.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he's,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure he's proud of you now.
Oh yeah, well listen, that's
me.
the point of it all, right?
right,
Leaving
that's right.
legacy,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
for your offspring to stand on,
Yes,
Right,
that's
right.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody said something strange to me one time in regards to my dad. We were talking about a particular thing, but they said you're better than him
Oh, wait a minute.
at that, and I said I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I'm worse, then that means he didn't do his job. Right? So I'm
That's a good point.
supposed to be better. I'm supposed to be Grayson 2.0, right?
That's
3.0, as my son and my daughters should be. Right? And
Yeah.
so
Good
the
point.
legacy that he left me, right? And I had to be very clear about the legacy that he left me. Because the legacy that he left me got me in the door, but it didn't keep me in
That's
No,
right.
you
The
gotta do
house,
that right.
right?
That's
I
the
had
point.
to come
That's the point,
with
yeah.
some tools of my own,
That's right.
right? But his legacy is what got
he
me in the
planted
door.
the seed, and you just
Absolutely. And what I did,
Beautiful.
especially as Scripture was says, when I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child. But when I became a man and put away childish things
Right, right,
and started realizing the things that my father had done for me,
Yes.
right? Then I really started taking that king status, because once he passed, I moved from prince to king, and I was like, you got to start acting
I love that. I
like
love
a
that.
king,
That's
right?
Yeah, as a king
and that's
you
what I
are.
did. And so we can all look at our parents and talk about the negative things that happened, the trauma that may have incurred, right? As they call ACE, adverse child experiences. We can all look back in our childhood and find things and reasons why we don't like what our parents did.
That's right. That's a good point.
And I did that too.
Of course.
But then I started to change my perception, right? And stop letting people tell me, right, about how I should think and I started thinking for myself. And I started saying, wait a minute, the good that my father did clearly outweighs the negative.
Oh, no doubt about it.
And so I started concentrating on what he did do as opposed to maybe what
And that
he
would
might
change.
not have done.
Your attitude will
that's a good
change a
point.
little bit too when you start having children of
Oh,
your own.
yeah.
They're gonna have to make the same kind of observation
Yeah.
and decision about what.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there was a
it's-
famous line in the movie Nothing in Common with Jackie Gleason and Tom Hanks, right? And Tom Hanks was going off on his father, and who was Jackie Gleason. And Jackie Gleason said, "That's how I was raised. I did the best I could." Right? And so that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
We try to throw away what we thought didn't work.
Right.
We try to keep what we thought did,
Yeah.
but we're still going to make mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I tell my
Just
kids the
human,
same thing,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I'm doing the best I can.
I can.
When you go to therapist's couch, don't tell them it was my fault. Don't go up in there
You
and
get a
talk
little
about
better
You
over.
take-
You
you take
get
your
a little
responsibility
better
for it.
over time.
That's
You
what
get-
I'm saying.
And you get to be a grandparent
Oh,
and a
please,
great
hey.
parent.
Yeah.
By that time, you know
Yeah.
that.
I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I did the best I could, right? So,
So now, you tell us about you, pastor around
Yes.
here and stuff about.
yeah, well, I started pastoring in 2019, and it's interesting because I founded True Word Community Christian Center. And I founded it because, one, it was a call in my spirit from God.
Oh, wow.
But also, I forgot the gentleman's name who wrote the book, but it deals with a revolutionary spirit. And Martin Luther King talked about how if we weren't careful, 50 years ago, he was saying that the church is going to begin to be looked at as a social construct, right? And me, I was getting in all types of trouble, right, with the pastors that I was with because I was progressive. I was an out-of-the-box thinker,
Yes,
right?
yes,
I didn't just want to get up in the pulpit on Sunday and preach. I wanted to make sure that from Monday to Saturday, we were doing stuff, right? Because in the old days, most of the people that went to your church came from your community.
Yeah.
And if you had influence over them, you had power in the political arena.
Yes.
But since a large majority of your people don't live in the city, the power and the influence that they once had, they no longer actually have. The problem is they think they do. And so they have this aura about them where, I'm special. And I was like, listen, I'm about serving my community. And I'm not looking to demean anybody who has a role and they operate in that role. So if that's what you do, right, that's fine. But if that's, preaching on Sunday, if that's all you do in Bible study, that's fine. That's what you do. But don't hinder me from running my race.
That's a good point. That's right. Yeah,
Right?
yes,
And that's
yes,
what I was looking at. I'm like, I ain't mad at you, right? Because you don't think like me, but why would you be mad at me? Because I don't think like you. But then you're dealing with control issues and all of those other things that come into play. So I'm not saying anything demeaning about my co-laborers, my past. It's just that for me, right, I'm a community. I believe in each one, teach one.
That's
Right?
a beautiful
I'm a
concept.
believer in turning ideas into tangible items that can be used. Right? I don't believe in praying for somebody and then not following up to actually seeing
That's a good
how
point.
they're doing.
point, yeah.
Right? I don't believe in using God, right, as a tool for them to go wait on the sidelines for him to work. I believe that you got to be a participant of your own rescue, but if you come from a place where you just haven't been taught and you don't know, then somebody's got to have enough patience to work with you, right? Because you might
That's a
not
good
have
point.
any money, you might not have a
Yeah,
job,
whatever,
you might
yeah.
not have a good suit, right?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
the
yeah,
people
yeah.
that we play to,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
But like I said earlier, you got a lot of stars with dust on them, and so you can't see the beauty in them, right? But somebody's got to be there
That's right.
to
That's
wipe
right.
the dust off,
Right.
That's right.
right? So we can see the stars. So I'm engaged, right, in helping people get to that next level in multiple capacities. And, you know, I'm big on time management. That's how I can do all of these things.
Okay.
I'm big on time management. But listen, I if God's going to give me the energy, save my life from the things I used to do, right? Because I spent the first 35 years playing.
Okay.
The next 35 years is service, right? It's like you don't
Makes
get to
sense.
play the whole 70, 80 years,
No, you can't do that. Yeah.
right?
Makes
So
sense.
that's so we founded the church in 2019, and it's going well. And I have a platform, you know, where the spiritual component, right, is again, that's necessary. You can't do anything without God,
Right.
right?
That's a good point.
People need to know that. I was preaching this Sunday on a subject called "My Life is the Evidence." So when I think about God, it's nice to have my Bible. It's nice to have the testimony of others.
yeah.
But when I look at my life
That's right,
and
that's
look
right.
at the divine intervention that God has played in areas in my life where I was jacked up or tore up from the floor up, as they would say,
That's
right?
right.
I
Evidence,
understood that it was
yeah.
God who did it. And I just try to transfer that message to other
Right.
people. Don't leave God out of the equation.
Never.
That's
Get the
beautiful.
car, get the house,
Yeah,
get the
yeah,
money,
yeah,
get the
yeah.
job, get the
Exactly.
girl,
Yeah,
right?
whatever.
But don't leave God out of the equation because He's the source. All those other things are resources.
Right.
Right. That's
And if the
beautiful
resource
thought.
goes crazy on you and you ain't cool with the source, you got a problem.
Real problem. Real problem.
Real
Right now, I
problem.
heard you mention your children. Give us a little you tell us about your family.
Well, the reason for when we get to the conversation about the can we talk
Okay.
is because I'm divorced,
Okay.
right? And I'm divorced. I was with my wife for 40 years.
Okay.
Right? And what happens is you meet someone and you're inseparable and you laugh at everything they say and you everything is giggle and cool. But as you get the house and you get the kids, right? You're going to dance recitals, ballerinas, basketball games, football games. You're doing all of these things, but you're not taking care of each other.
Yes.
Okay.
And then one day you wake up and the kids are 16, 18, and 20, whatever, and you're looking at the other person like, who are you?
Who are you?
Because
Yeah,
I
right.
ain't seen you in 15 years.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
we've been passing
That's
each
a good
other in the
point.
night, right? We sleep next to each other, don't talk, right? We don't take trips. We don't have date night. We don't put, right? And so ultimately that catches up to you.
It does. It
And
does.
so what happens now is you got to find a way to communicate
Yes.
to get your house back in order.
That's a good point.
Unfortunately,
That's a good point.
we weren't able to do that.
Yes.
We're still very good friends.
Yeah.
My kids are doing great. My daughters are homeowners.
Okay.
You know, my son, he's doing very well. He was incarcerated at 18.
Okay.
I just want to tell the story very quickly.
Yes.
He was incarcerated at 18.
Mhm.
Now, his birthday was September 4th.
Mhm.
And I sat him down and I said, listen, you a man now.
That's right.
If they catch you out in these streets, they going to fry you, bro.
That's right. Yeah.
And Thanksgiving in November, right after he turned 18, he got into a fight with some kid, hit him in the head. He fell down, knocked out. They came, locked him up, hit him with a $100,000 bail.
Oh no.
Right? Aggravated assault.
Yes.
So what we did was we got a lawyer to argue bail reduction, and they got it down to $15,000 with 10%. So all we had to do was pay $1,500.
Okay,
So I went to
okay.
see him in jail. I said, "How you doing, son?" He was like, "Yo, Joshua's up here, Abdul was up here. You know, you
It's like a
remember we used to
reunion.
play baseball." So I was like, "Oh, you good? You good then?" So I left. Right, come back. Right, hey, what's going on, man? Oh man, guess who just got here?
Oh,
I'm like,
my
"Oh, you
goodness.
good then?" So I left him there for a while. And his mother was like, "Well, we can get him out now." I said, "But not yet. Not yet." She said, "We can get him out." And families calling, "Why is he still in jail?" I told my wife at that time, "Let me handle this." I go up there and see him. He's cool. One day I go up there. He starts crying, boo-hooing.
I wanna get outta here. I wanna get outta
Daddy,
here."
when you gonna get me out of here? I said, "Today. I just needed to know you were ready."
Okay.
And I ain't had a problem. I love him since. He's been on the same job for 20 years. He's 41
Okay.
now. He's got a
beautiful story.
family,
Yeah.
right,
No.
doing his thing. But to you parents out there,
Uh-huh.
right, if you don't allow these kids to suffer, if you don't allow them to learn how to develop
That's right.
their
They
thinking,
got to grow.
their
They gotta grow.
anger,
Yes.
right? You've got to be able to handle your anger when you're in uncomfortable situations. If you don't teach them how to do that, then when they do get in that,
Right.
because our number one job for our children, our number one job is to make them self-sufficient. So when I leave this earth,
That's beautiful.
my kids can handle their own business.
Yes.
I can sleep on that,
Okay. Yeah.
right? And so that's where I am with my family. I teach them. I'm transparent with them about my mistakes, right?
Yeah, you have to be.
Yeah. So my family's strong, and they cool. They
Yeah.
good.
Well, that's good.
They good.
That's good.
And I still tell them, I brought you in this world.
Don't even
And I-
don't finish that. But
say that. Yeah, yes. But we know what that
Right.
is.
They're 41. I have a son 41. My daughters are 34 and 32.
okay.
Right. So, they made some issues with their male picks in the
Yeah,
early
oh, man,
years.
yeah,
well,
And I
hey.
said to them, why would you pick? Why are you in college and you
That-
going to pick
that
a guy
guy.
who don't go to college? Like,
well, we
what's
make
wrong with
our
you?
mistakes. We make
Yeah,
our
we
mistakes.
do,
and,
yeah.
we
But
all do.
they recovered, and I just stayed on top of
That
them.
is
And
the
then I had to let them
important
go
thing.
for a little while. My youngest daughter stayed in the shelter for a little while. And I didn't rescue her. I let her stay right in the shelter. Right? Get a little taste of that. See what it feel like. Just like I left my son in jail. I left her right in that shelter. Like, yeah, you need to leave. You need to sit there for a
You have
minute.
to go through some hard knocks sometimes
Yeah.
to make some
You have
sense
to,
out of
because
things.
sometimes
Yeah.
they have to learn the lesson the hard way.
Yeah.
Because some people I know with my children, I have one daughter I can talk to her and reason with her.
Right.
The other daughter I can tell her that fire is hot and she just got to touch it. I tell her the fire was hot. Yeah, and that's the thing. That my
You
son
gonna
he's right
learn.
in the
You gonna
middle.
learn.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So family's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
My
That
family's
is
good to hear
tight.
that.
That
and,
is so
I'm
good.
prayerful and thankful
Yeah,
that
that
they
is so
continue to
good.
be so.
Oh, they will.
And,
They will.
they
Now, y'all hear that you got something coming up.
Ooh,
Yes,
Did you
yes.
tell us
Ooh.
about-
Whoa, yes,
weeks.
girl. We got a
Exciting.
brunch coming up to which you are a panelist.
Well, yes.
You
so
know,
looking
and,
forward
I
to
got
it.
your
Looking
book
forward
right
to
here,
it.
girl. I keep it with me. I
Okay.
quote it from time to time. I share it with people. So you're going to
Alrighty.
be at one of our panelists. We have another young lady
Oh, there it is.
named Paige
we
Hopper. who
Okay,
wrote a
that's
book
where you're going to
called-
be. Can we talk? That's the subject.
And she has a book called Healing Wounds of American Slavery. Because what I'm finding out in the area that I work in recovery and in reentry is that a lot of men and women are not communicating effectively.
Okay. Okay.
Right? We're arguing, we're dismissing, we're not hearing each other, and it's adding to an already overwhelming burden of just dealing with society in general.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes,
So I got to fight out there, and then I got to fight when I come home. That makes for a bad recipe.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
That's a recipe for danger. And
Yes,
so
it is,
Can
it
We
is.
Talk is an opportunity for men and women to seriously talk about our issues in communication.
Yeah.
But again, as Ruby would state earlier, you got to start from the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
how did it come about?
How did it come about?
Right?
Yeah.
And we know that it was, there was one time when the black man was revered.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
This woman idolized him, and he was, right, the king of that castle. And then
castle,
over
yeah.
time, with society's intervention,
Intervention. That's what it is.
I used to read Bell Hooks a lot, and she was very strong on the damage of integration.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
She said we turned our
It didn't
kids
help us.
over to teachers
Yeah.
who gave them false history.
Yeah, to the extent that sometimes we don't even know the damage. In my book, Verbal Healing, one of the compilations I did, about 55 or so, of things that we shouldn't say. And I know we used to say all the time, well, I don't care who teaches my kid as long as they're being taught. No. You
Big
better care
mistake.
who teaches
Big
your
mistake.
kid.
Yeah.
Big mistakes. So there are
Absolutely.
things we got to
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
take the second.
Especially at that time,
Right.
where the teachers were racist.
And at this time, they're just,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean,
they have come to the
I will
point.
give an opportunity for an individual to show me who they are on their own merits in
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Oh,
But when we
definitely.
did it in the 60s, we were turning them over
Yeah,
to the
we knew.
enemy.
Oh yeah, we were.
We knew
We were.
exactly, but now in today's society, it's not as overt, but they are if you're looking at Governor DeSantis, you would not have thought that a man of his caliber, he's the governor of all the people of the state. And you see, would you want your child taught by him?
No.
So yeah, you got to be extra
Yeah.
careful even today. And that's not to, identify all of them as racist, but you just got to be careful.
Right.
That's
As
right.
with any
That's
other
right.
thing, don't just automatically think just because you send your kid out there or that they're being taught. Because sometimes these teachers don't really know that they are not teaching the way they should teach.
'cause
I
they
was
have-
in a class.
They're inoculated.
Yeah,
They've been
because
inoculated.
They have a
You
bias
know,
too.
the
They're
bias.
teaching the history that they
teach their
read.
bias.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But in this conversation, what we really want to do is, again, if you are going to energize the family, if you are going to bring that nucleus back, right, you've got to start with the king and queen.
Oh,
Oh,
beautiful.
definitely.
Right, you've got to start with the king and queen, right? And I mean, listen, I can only bring on from a male perspective,
Yeah.
right?
we
But
need
this has
other-
happened in my
other
house
people.
plenty times. Hubby, baby, I'm a little unhappy with you today.
What did I do?
Why did I do something? You know what you did. Well, wait, no, that's what I'm asking, right? What did I do? You know what you did. No,
I'm
baby,
trying to
really.
think of that song that comes on. Ooh, what did I do? The song goes. How can I tell if you didn't tell me? What
Yeah.
song is that? I never remember.
But you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I'm looking
but
at her like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
I really don't know. And these are
there's no
issues that
communication
most
there.
men that I know deal with,
That's right.
right?
That's
So she's like, well, you know what? Stay away from me. Don't touch me today until because I told you this
Don't talk to
before,
me, right?
right? And you did it again, and you're scratching your
What-
head
what
like
did I
I
do?
ain't have
What
a
did I do?
clue as to what she's talking about, right? So what do now as a guy? You go out with the boys,
That's right.
Yeah.
right? And then that becomes a habit.
Yeah.
And then once that habit kicks in, it becomes a regular. So every time we get in an argument, you leave,
That's right.
right? She, puts the chastity belt on. You know what I'm saying? And we got a problem.
But we
right?
all come from confusion, see.
Right. We-
Equally,
we
the
do.
women have
We do.
their own issues around why men do what
Right,
they
absolutely.
do.
Right.
And as you said earlier, we know that this has been something or created by folks who never wanted us to be together in the first place.
Anyway,
It was obvious
anyway,
because they
yeah,
took us separate.
Right.
So that stands to reason that they would not want any unity among us.
Well,
So
yeah.
with that in mind, women have issues and men have issues,
Right.
but it's a good thing
And
what
we-
you're doing. 'Cause we gotta start talking.
Yeah.
Bring us
we
And
have
together.
until we start talking, we may not even hear the person out there who would kind of give us a reason for the issue.
Right.
Because there's a reason, there's a cause and
Right.
effect to everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the cause that we have these issues, if we think they're unique
Right.
to humanity, to other folks,
Yeah.
then we
This
must
is-
have
it's-
we must
it's
say,
human.
well,
It's human.
why?
Yeah.
But it's
And we have our own uniqueness in our
we do.
culture.
Yeah.
Now, before we run out of time, I just want to now where is this taking place? This,
Well, it's taking place in Jersey City, but before I tell you, and I tell you, I want to add one more piece that I need to say to my sisters, right? Can you stop telling us what to do? Right? Like.
but they're
my-
trying to help us.
Right,
Yeah.
my ex-wife would say, you need to paint the garage.
Yeah.
And I would go, I know I need to paint it. Right?
I know that.
But I don't need to paint it today. Right? But she keeps saying that. And what I'm saying to her is, you don't have to tell me to paint the garage. All you got to do is say, that garage would look nice if it was blue.
Yeah, right.
And then kiss on me
Yeah.
and show me a little loving.
And you can't wait.
And when
can't
you
wait
come
to do it.
home, the garage will be blue.
Right.
Right? I mean, we've got to
we
find
want
better
to be
ways.
appreciated.
Right. And that's a man's thing. We want to be appreciated. We want to be nurtured. We want to be, we produce.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And so, I mean, again, I'm an amateur. I'm working more on experience, right, than anything. But because of the men and women that I work with, I see this as a common thread,
That's right.
a common problem that they don't know how to talk to each other when they're upset.
Did you read the apology? from my.
What? I read it at church yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I read it at church yesterday.
So we recognize, some
Yeah.
of us really recognize
Yeah.
there's some issues that
Right.
we need to deal with.
Yes, yes.
And until we all know
Right.
that there are issues that have
Right.
been put in our community
Right.
that make these things
Right.
happen.
But
you
here's
know?
this, Rube, in your book, right? 400 years is over now, right? My eyes are wide open. I see the king in you. Please forgive my wrongs and see the queen in me.
Yes,
You
that's
talk like
important.
that, you'll get the garage painted, the bathroom fixed, what, the car,
Whatever you
You
want,
talk to
yeah.
me like that?
The world is yours.
Come
the world
on.
is yours.
What? You ain't got to
Reverend
worry about
Grayson.
diamonds and pearls. They're sitting on the pillow.
Hey, Reverend Grayson, but she was just blessed to know that. How many, what is the percentage of us haven't got that yet?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Haven't
Yeah.
clicked with us yet. So she, it's a blessing that she knows it.
Yeah.
But now we got to get our other folk
Right, they've
to
got to
know.
be exposed
Bring
to
everything
this.
She
together.
began
Bring
to
it all together.
understand that it was something going on other than normal
Right.
that would make her think that way.
Right.
Matter of fact, she said it.
Right.
The Willie Lynch type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But all of us don't know that. We'll
Yeah,
swear.
we don't.
We'll swear that it's
Right.
you just no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we got to come to that conference. And where's that going to be now?
Yeah, now it's going to be held in Jersey City.
Okay.
Now, I'm the pastor of True Word Community Christian Center, which is in Elizabeth.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But I have a pastor as well,
Okay.
right? I hold myself accountable to another individual,
Oh, great.
right? And I work with my pastor with the things that she is doing. Her name is Reverend Dr. Frances Tebow, right? She's the pastor of St. John's Baptist Church in Jersey City.
Okay. All right.
Right? We have been friends for a long time, and we used to talk about how we will one day work together with men. We didn't know how that was going to happen,
Yeah, and-
right?
and here it is.
But here we are. She's
beautiful.
pastoring her church.
Beautiful.
Our service is at 8 o'clock. So when I'm done with service at 8 o'clock, it's like my day ain't over. Sunday's my day of worship,
Right.
right? And so I go to her church and work with her church. Now,
Oh, that's beautiful.
I do that for multiple reasons. One, it's an assignment
Yes. Yes.
because I'm trying to grow my own church.
Oh.
And biblically, the way to receive is to give.
Yes. Yes.
Now, when you operate on man's level, you get man's responses.
Mm-hmm.
But when you operate on God's level, you get God's responses, right? And so where many people think that if I give, I don't have time to receive. I won't have time to receive.
Yeah, yeah.
In
Yeah,
other
yeah,
words, if I spend too much time working with her church, I won't build mine.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what man thinks.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
But in God's eyes, if you contribute to the benefit of someone else
Yes,
without strings,
Yeah, yeah.
God blesses that.
Oh, no
right?
doubt about it. Yeah, that's
Because the
point.
Bible says, do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. For whatever a man sows, that's what he reaps. And so if you reap into other people, God will make sure that there are other people available to reap in you. And so I go out to Jersey City where this will be to work with her men, to work with her church. She's my dear friend and pastor. Like I said, we've known each other a long time. And we are trying to, again, create this conversation with men in areas as Jersey City and Elizabeth, where we know that the struggle of black men, right, is unacceptable.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, between the crack epidemic and now the opioid epidemic, with the inability, and I'm very careful about to say the inability because there's jobs out here, but this generation, everybody thinks they should start as CEO.
Yeah, because that's why I say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
But at this time, we want to reach out to our viewers. We have people who. Tune
Just
in.
where our viewers know 'em.
Yeah, and I have a partial listing of people who.
Well, no, we want to. If they come up on
Yeah.
the tape, well, I'm not sure who's
Okay,
listening.
yeah,
So
but we
I
want
think
to
Norm
let
just
us know
forgot
we
to bring
do
them on.
appreciate those who tune in.
Yeah.
Okay, there they are.
There you
Okay,
are.
Yes. Some more regulars there.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay. I'm just gonna shout out a few of you. Robert Cabbage Talk. Okay. Rose Cabbage Talk. Renee. All right. Thank you all. Rashida Johnson. Paul Green. I'm watching. Lula Salvador. Wakia Lewis Cotton down in North Carolina. Hello, family. Lloyd Shivers, my son, absolutely watching my mom and brother, Terry. Good afternoon, all. And that was Dina Robinson, Rashida Johnson. Thank you all. You know, I just appreciate it. Growing in Faith, a true Bronner story. That's Lorraine Bronner, my friend there in Philadelphia. John William is watching. Okay, all of y'all just keep it, you know, that's what we need.
That's right.
We need the courage and the encouragement to keep this show going. You know, my thing is I'm trying to dispense the knowledge that I know we need.
Yeah.
You know, as I said before, I just know that the scripture said we'll perish for lack of knowledge, but we also know that truth crushed to the earth will rise again.
That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to do is to make sure I bring the truth as we know it. And once we bring the truth as we know it, we can dispel all the other nonsense
That's true. That's
that
right.
those of Governor DeSantis and the rest of the crew that trying to eliminate
That's right. That's right.
the
Yeah.
history that we, many of us know we have. Some of us don't.
Yeah.
And that's where we got to get to, those folks that don't know we have great history.
Oh, we do.
We have great history. Now, Reverend Grayson, we are going to be, our time is winding down, but just give us any information you need us to know about.
Okay. Well, the brunch, obviously, I said Miss Ruby Shivers will be one of the panelists. Miss Paige Hopper will be another panelist. Her husband, Pastor Michael Hopper, he has a master's in social work, and he's a career counselor. They are flying in from Los Angeles
Okay.
Oh, wow.
just for this brunch.
All
I'm
right.
hosting them at my house.
Okay.
Right? And we have Reverend Leroy Minter, who is a psychotherapist.
Oh, that's what we
that's
need.
right. Yes.
Right?
We need
So
those
we're
kind.
bringing in people with strong spiritual backgrounds,
We need those
but
kind.
have an understanding of practical application.
Right.
Right? You have to use the tool. Right? I ain't never seen a hammer put a nail in by itself.
Right.
Right? So
That
we
is
have these
so
strong
true.
panelists.
Yeah, beautiful.
The brunch is from 9 to 2 in Jersey City, St. John's Baptist Church, Jersey City, New Jersey, 525 Bromhall Avenue.
Okay.
Right? On the flyer, we're trying to get them out as much as we can. The Eventbrite, you can go to Eventbrite and look under Can We Talk? St. John's Baptist Church. There's ways to get to it on your own,
Okay.
or you can look at the flyer and get the link off the flyer. We usually attach the direct link with the flyer, but we really would like people to come down and have a serious conversation. Now,
It's
Yeah.
important.
serious conversations aren't easy,
No, they're not.
right?
But
Fluffy
very
conversations
necessary.
They're
Not
necessary.
easy, but very necessary.
Yeah. So we've got to be open. You know, as Ruby said, the women got an issue too. It ain't just us.
No, not just us.
Right?
Yeah.
But I will say this, the philosophy of happy wife, happy life has allowed women to believe that their happiness came first. And I
Oh, I
say
don't know about all
happy
that.
spouse, happy house,
Yeah.
because for you, I'm supposed to make sure you're first. But for me, you're supposed to make sure I'm first.
Yeah.
Now,
Right?
Reverend Grayson, now you said the title of the talk is "Can We Talk?" But there's a subtitle.
Right.
What's the
An
subtitle?
honest conversation between men and women.
Could you say it again,
And the
please?
sub-
Say it again.
the an honest
Honest.
conversation
Okay.
between men and women, and the theme is communicating with purpose.
Okay.
Like all of this unnecessary
in there. Get all that in there.
conversation, right? That is meaningless and really drives us more apart. Right? If you're going to be angry, don't say anything. Right?
right,
But
that's
don't
right.
say anything that you got to spend the next 2 days saying sorry for. Right? Let's communicate with purpose.
Right.
Purpose.
Right.
Let's
I
have
love that.
meaning in what we say.
Honest with
Right?
purpose,
Tell me how you feel. Let me listen. Let me respond not only with words but in action. I saw a saying the other day that says love has no what does it say? Love has no words. Right? Because it's an action
That's right.
Okay.
word, right? So I'll see it regardless of whether you say it or not. Now it's nice to hear, obviously.
Right.
That's
right.
true.
Right? So communicating with purpose, right? But again, we gotta have serious conversation, which means when I say something you don't like, don't dismiss it.
Yeah,
Listen to it.
Let's deal with it. Let's deal with it.
Right? Well, if I say to you, every time we start a conversation, or I tell you how I feel about an issue, somehow it ends up back on me, means you're not listening to me.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Or if I'm giving you a feeling and you're not validating it, no, you can't feel that way. I'm not. Well, that's a problem. Right? And so we've got to validate each other.
Well, see, listening to you, maybe what we need to do is like the young lady that I write about in the book. The men need to construct a verbiage where it's explaining their mistakes trying to understand us. She did very well in trying to explain what brought her to the point that she was disrespecting and not believing.
That's
and
a
not,
good point.
So
Right.
they kind of together we deal with it from that perspective.
Right.
Because there's a reason we are just not the type of people that don't love it. We come from a village perspective, village concept.
We do.
And
we do.
we got away from that over time. And just like you said, Reverend, people have purposely
But it's
put us apart,
it's
made
coming
us,
back. It's
and
coming
we
back.
don't even
It's coming back.
so that we don't even recognize it. It just come upon us, and then we just think it's something that we came up with.
Right. And I think we've overcompensated because we like to blame everything on somebody else. The
Well,
government,
Right, but
institution, racism.
Right, but just stop it for a minute, because what I'm thinking, and we need to discuss that. I'm glad we're discussing that. What I'm thinking until we get to the point where we know it's not, we can't blame. We just going to have to accept ourselves as someone who's been put upon, as someone who have been have been given through all kinds of what I want to call it, where we have been trained through. We came away with syndromes. You know, one of the things I think we missed, the 200 years, at least forget about the last 200. The first 200 years created a whole lot of syndromes. Dr. Joy DeGruy writes the post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's real. And until we understand that there's something that had happened to us through all that stuff that had gone on in our life and still going on. You know, there's a syndrome, and I can't recall what it is. My pastor talked about it, where black men have this thing that different from white men.
Right? Yeah.
They are, because when you're out at night and you see that light flashing in back of you, something happened to the brain.
Another
Something happened to the
conversation.
brain.
Yeah, that's
Something-
right.
Absolutely does.
So it's different. So that's why we're proportionately behind in a lot of things, health, wealth, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We're proportionate behind in that, and not because we're lazy or don't have the wherewithal. We have been done with,
We have.
for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And if
That's
we
true.
don't
No,
understand
you're
that,
right. You're right.
we'll always
Right.
point our fingers at us for whatever
And
we're
it's someone
doing.
else, yeah.
But when we learn that there are things that we got to get see and deal with, we gonna have a whole lot of issues. But I'm thankful to God that He's bringing us. I see it. He's bringing us to a point where we are understanding a whole lot better.
Yeah, we
And
are.
when that sister wrote that, and I put that in that book, and what I'm trying to do now, I tell everybody, I know God didn't put me at this stage of my life just for the fun of it.
That's right. Yeah.
I have grandkids I could be taking care of, but He wants me to dispense. He wants me to dispense with what I know, the information, the true information that I know of how we got to where we are and what we need to do to get from under.
And that's important. Now we got about 5 minutes left, so you want to say something in closing, Ruby?
Well, I'm gonna. If I don't, my
You'd be in
producer
trouble.
gonna
And
be in
I
trouble.
don't want you to get in trouble. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
now,
you,
for
Brother
those
Grayson,
of,
coming in.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
gonna let him finish. But for those of you who appreciate what we're doing, who like what we're doing, who think it's worthwhile what we're doing, we want you to continue to watch us, enjoy us, but we also want you to support us, and if you can financially, because nothing comes free. So if you want to send us a donation, Cash App, $ Ruby Shivers, or Zelle, or check, money order. We appreciate it so much. Because we love what we're doing. We know it's necessary what we're doing. We're trying to get the message through that you're somebody, You're God's children.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are, we got to get away from the hate thyself syndrome. You know, hate our skin color, hate our hair, hate whatever it is that other folks have brain dirtied us on thinking that we're worse than everybody else.
Yes.
And when we look around, we know everything. We're the first. We were created by God, the original man.
Okay.
And he didn't create dirt.
Yeah. And on that note, we will see you next week, same time, same station. Thank you, Reverend Grace. And we will see you at the conference.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I just
Ruby.
want to say, remind
Yeah.
you
Okay.
to look at the book, Healing Wounds.
Okay.
This is American Slavery. That's one of the panelists. It's by Paige Means Hopper. She'll be there. And then obviously you probably know Why Shouldn't I Cry?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Right, by my
Yeah, I
friend
gotta
Billy
start selling some
Cyrus, you know.
books.
And I'm going through them to be ready for the breakfast so we can talk a
Okay.
little bit about the historical context.
Okay.
Right?
That
So
sounds
I'm looking
good.
forward to seeing everybody at the
All right.
breakfast. Come down and talk with us.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Appreciate you.